I have always loved taking photos. It's rarely good photos that I take, and it's usually mostly bad photos, but I still enjoy it nevertheless. It's a simple pleasure of life, immortalizing that one moment in a single photo frame. And it's something that was taught to me by my dad when I was only 5 to 6 years old, and ever since then I've been doing it. So I really enjoy taking photos. Now, recently, I bought a new camera to add to my arsenal, the Fujifilm X20. And as a techie, I usually care more about image quality than really anything else. But this little brick-like camera with its dainty 1-inch sensor and 12 megapixels of resolution, which I only bought for the fancy hipster looks, has changed my idea of cameras almost completely. You see, photography is not a science at all. No matter what you say about leading lines, underexposing, overexposing, framing, depth of field, whatever you say about that, it's all technical terms and it doesn't define photography, because none of it matters unless you actually have inspiration and skill and motivation to take photos. There's a lot more to taking photos than just pointing and shooting, and I feel that this should translate to the equipment itself. Cameras that are the tools you use to craft this art form, and they have to help rather than work against it. Art is an emotional thing. It needs feeling. And I know I'm speaking like a pro, and I'm not one clearly from all the photos that I take, which are mostly trash. But it's just what I feel when I take photos, and what I feel when I see real pros take photos. There is a lot of humanity and emotional connection when taking photos, and equipment should reflect that. Now onto the Fujifilm X20. Just kind of the point of the video, it's been super different from any of my other cameras. Now I'm not going to do a proper review, it's an old product, I know, but it's a special one. It's very simple, most completely sparse, very basic, but I actually enjoy. There's nothing crazy about it. It doesn't have 700 autofocus points, no 20 frames per second high shutter speed. There isn't even 1080p video. It's so basic, but it's so enjoyable. And that probably comes down to the controls. It's full of dials, it's tactile, it's convenient, it's functional, and it just feels so refreshing. There's a beauty to being able to change your settings mechanically instead of having to scroll through terrible menus and terrible operating systems, which, let's be honest, is pretty terrible on the Fujifilm cameras. And having these switch and changing everything mechanically and manually and super easily is just such a enjoyable thing to do that it really makes the experience a lot better. But a lot of things are that are terrible on this camera. Video sucks, autofocus sucks, image quality is only like smartphone level at most, but truthfully, it doesn't matter to me. To me, it's got one thing going for it that makes it so different from the others, so good. It's fun. This camera is an awesome device to shoot with. It's motivating, it's inspiring. For one, it's compact and functional. It's small and doesn't miss anything that makes photography pretty unique. This means you can bring it everywhere and always have it with you to take photos. And because of its small design, you don't feel obligated to take pictures with it because it's just a few 100 grams in your bag. But when you want to, you can make sure that the camera is always with you and always ready to take photos. Apart from that, the optical viewfinder is really nice. Digital viewfinders on small cameras especially really tend to suck. They're laggy, they're not sharp, the colors are off, and they're just not as good as optical viewfinders because you can see the real world. Also, there's the fact that the zoom is mechanical. I don't have to wait for slow, annoying motors to zoom in, and it's super nice for street photography since it's fast and the camera is small and discreet. Furthermore, it's built really well. There's not an inch of the camera with a cheap feeling surface. It's all metal, it's all leather, it's all quality part that when you touch, it inspires a sense of confidence, awesomeness. It just feels good. And holding it in your hand, it doesn't feel like a toy, and it feels more like a tool, a important piece of equipment, even though it looks so hipstery and toyish. And then there are the film profiles. On this camera, Fuji puts many lovely film profiles that simulate their classic film looks. There is the usual monochrome and normal, and they have Provia, Stelvia, and a variety of other films that they simulate on this camera. Now, usually, colors and these kind of color filters on cameras that are built in, well, they tend to suck. But on this camera, Fuji does it really well. And on their Fuji X series cameras, Fuji does this film simulation thing really well. Probably because they make film and they are really good at colors. The filters are consistent, the image just come out nice, the colors are pretty, they're not all over the place, and the filters are not crazy loud and vulgar and rather subtle at times that you might not even know you're using them. They add that little touch to the pictures that you take that make them a lot more special. In this case, gear actually matters, because people always say gear doesn't matter, gear doesn't matter, gear doesn't matter, but sometimes a piece of equipment can change your view on photography or taking videos. And in this case, it really does. And it's so good. It makes taking photos with other cameras fun as well, because you are now motivated to make pretty images. It's like a cure for being bored with photography. It's really that nice. And the camera is just really special, and I think it points out a problem with how people misunderstand cameras and misunderstand how to choose a correct camera. We aren't pros. We don't need the best resolution. We don't need 50,000 megapixels, a f/0.00001 aperture for razor thin depth of field and blurry bokeh. And while those are nice features to have on your pictures, they're not the most important thing. If you buy a camera because you like photography, you should buy one that makes you feel good about taking photos. One that elevates the experience, injects it with fun, and brings it to another level that is different and brings life into your photos. Because it's not the photo that matters, it's what's in the photo. That's why so many great photographers still use film, or they use Leicas. And these aren't cameras that produce super crazy images like Hasselblads or the X-T50 or Sony A7s or things like that. These are cameras that they enjoy using, and it inspires them. And it helps them take better photos, nice photos, great photos, legendary photos. Now, this camera isn't probably as good as those. This camera is probably not as amazing as those, as a Leica or a film camera. Let's be honest here, it's much cheaper for one. But I'm not saying it won't do at least half of what shooting with a Leica or a film feels like. And to be honest, for most of us, that's probably enough. I'm not saying Fuji, this bunch of cameras, is the best camera ever and best for everyone, but to me, it's a camera that is truly unique and truly, I'm sure there is an equivalent version for every one of you avid photographers. There will come a time where you come across a piece of equipment that makes you want to take photos, makes you want to take more photos or better photos constantly because of how amazing it is. My friend shoots with his Pentax, even though it's about 6 years old, because it was the last gift his grandparents gave to him, and it's got that sentimental value that makes him love his camera so much and makes him love taking photos so much, because there's a bit of memory and emotion in that camera, and it makes him inspired to take photos with that device. So the whole point isn't that Fuji is the best, but that it's different and that it's got this thing that's for me, makes it super unique and stand out from other cameras. However, I think this praise should be spread to the rest of the Fuji series, the X series in particular, because I have played with those cameras before and they have all had this little spark, this little bit of magic in them, well, most of them at least, that I truly enjoy in this X20. And I'd like to congratulate them for putting this in their cameras, because it makes photography so much more fun. Now, it might sound hipster, but looking back at film cameras and copying what they do made Fuji's cameras so wonderful and so good. And I'm glad they did it. Okay, so I guess that's it. This video has been kind of different from the usual one. If you don't like it, I apologize, but I had a lot of fun making it. And if you did enjoy watching it, like and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram if you want to see my pictures. And thanks for watching. Goodbye.